over how to calculate net present value and internal rate of return using Excel. Obviously, using your financial calculator is super simple, and this is what you'll be doing in the exam, but for this purpose of a report, we're using the Excel spreadsheet. Now you'll see my big bold writing down here saying, do the formulas in Excel. We need to be able to see the formulas. So when I mark it, I want to see it. If you're going to sum something, this is how I'd want to see it. There's our sum. I can click in and I can see the sum. I don't want you to sit there and just type it in 5,000, using your financial calculator, then typing in the answer. Because if that's wrong, I can't click in and see what you've done. So you have to remember, we need to be able to try and give you as many part marks as possible. Okay, let's get into it. Net present value and internal rate of return. This is just a little dummy cash flow. You may want to use these two formulas in your report. So we've got our periods 1 to 5 and our negative 10,000, and here are our cash flows coming in. And our market rate is 15%. So here we go up here. I've written it out how you're meant to enter it. So NPV equals, you have to actually type NPV, and you'll see this comes up. You start the formula with a bracket, and then the first thing it's asking for is your rate. So you put in your rate, and then you do a little comma. Now you have to make sure you've got a percentage in there, or it's 0.15. Okay, if it's a percentage, the computer will read it as 0.15. Okay, so after we've put in the rate, you'll see I've got a comma. I need to do that. And the next step is the cash flow that needs to be discounted. So obviously, period 0, we're not discounting. We go from period 1 to 5, and all we do is drag it. So you can see it's gone B4 dot to B8. Okay, and now we close that formula out, because that's calculating our net present value with the brackets. And then I also want to add on my period 1 negative cash flow. Okay, because that is money that has gone out the door, and we don't need to discount that because that's period 0, so day 1. And we just press enter, and there we go, we've got our net present value there. It's a negative, so it's probably not an investment I want to do. Next, internal rate of return. This one's super simple. You just go equals IRR, open brackets to start it, highlight our cash flow, so it's all of it, and then close brackets. There we go, 14%. That's it. Now just keep a note, show everything to 2 decimal places, and there we go. All done for that one. Is just a really quick bit on how to set up a cash flow. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this is a requirement in your assessment, and I'll be giving information away. So this is just generally on any company on how they would do it. But just to give you some context, if you first read your assessment criteria and the details, it says you're working for V Games. You need to construct a cash flow for B Connect, and you also have another product option, which is P Connect. So P Connect, you don't need to generate the full cash flow because they're giving you the net cash flow figures for each year from 1 to 6. Whereas B Connect, you're given paragraphs and paragraphs of information in which you need to extract the cash flow information and input it into a cash flow. So the purpose of doing this is to generate 2 cash flows, and then to figure out which one is the best option for V Games. What would you proceed with? And that's what the report's asking you, and what you need to do. You need to come to a recommendation, and whatever recommendation you have, you need to back it up. So with all cash flows, we would have the periods up across the top here. So I'm just going to call that life of the project. And in this case, it's 6 years. Now we always include year 0, which is like the get-go. That's when we establish everything. Go year 1. Now a little trick here, we've started year 0 and year 1. We want to go to year 6, we just put our cursor here, and there we go, boom. We've got it all there. So I'm just going to merge that as I did before, bold it. Okay, there. So here we go, we've got our years, and we're going to have data in every single year, but it will differ for every single year. So in year 0, we might have more cash flows coming in or going out than the other years. I would probably expect year 0 is when we establish it would have some money going out, because there would probably be costs to establish Year 6 would maybe be the same as year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or there could be different variables. Generally year 1, 2, 3, and 5, if that's during the life of the period of the project, they may be a bit more consistent, these ones. Okay, so what you do is you input your money coming in, so cash coming in and cash coming out. Now remember, this is cash flow, so we need to track cash, and also we need to figure out, this is basically looking at the viability of this project. So we need to include all that information to see, A, is it going to be a profitable project and should we go ahead? And B, do we want to go with B Connect or do we want to go with P Connect? So how I would enter it, if it's money coming in, cash in the door, it's going to be a positive figure here. If it's cash going out, it's going to be a negative figure here. Okay, and so you need to allocate the appropriate year and the cash in or cash out. Okay, put it all there. Now you might be given, this is not part of the question, this is just me coming up with some random stuff. It might say you have admin costs of $5,000 per month for operating. Okay, so you might have a data section over here. Now you don't need to do it this way, but it's always good to show your workings. We always bang on about that, because if you do make a mistake, we can go and figure out how you did it. So how I would do that, because remember, these are annual figures here, not monthly. So I'd go annual cost, which equals 5,000 times by 12. And then if I was going to go here, I'd go admin costs. Now remember, cash out, admin, it's a cost, expense, it's going out the door. So we go negative. Actually, I'm not going to say it starts in year 0 because it's for operating. Year 0 is when we're setting up. Year 1, negative, annual cost. Oh, hang on, we have to go equals, because we're getting the figure from over here, equals. Now we want to make it a negative, so we just put a minus sign in front of it and then press that. And there we go. Now, you know that that's going to occur from year 1 to 6 because the life of the project is operating every year. So let's jump in. Let's lock K8 cell. So we're going to lock that. So when we drag it, it won't go anywhere. It will stay on K8. So we press that and we drag it across. And then let's go format, number, and let's go accounting. Okay? So that's how I'll do that. So it's really good to have a little bit of data selection. So if I'm coming along here and I'm marking it, I can double click in and see, hey, you got it from there, 60,000, what's that made up of? It's 5,000 times by 12, so that makes sense. Do not just write this, because if you make a mistake and do 50,000, I'm going to give you no marks at all, okay? So it's best to always show the detail. You can also link things from other tabs if you want, whatever works. Then obviously at this end you're going to have, so here you have all your cash coming in, your cash coming up, so revenue, expenses, and all that sort of stuff. Then at the bottom you'll have your net cash flows. And how you do that is you just go sum, brackets, and you choose this. This isn't going to work because I've got some text in there, but make sure you grab all the figures and then you go enter, and then again we can just drag that across. Let's make that format, number, accounting. Now I like to bold that because that's important, and if we want to get really specific, you don't need to do this, but top border, and then we're going to go just doing it a bit accounting style. That, okay, so double lines at the bottom, one line up the top. You don't need to do this, just do it however you want. But there's our net cash flows there. Obviously you're going to have a whole bunch more information that is provided in the question, but that's just a real good border overview on how to kind of set it up. You've obviously got to discount the cash flows per the question. I'm not going to show you how to do that because you just discount them by whatever percentage it is, and then you might do some calculations for comparison and then discuss that in the report. Some calculations I've already discussed here, which is the MPV and IRR, but that should be a decent starting point. If you have any questions, just ask. Thank you.